In this video, we're going to actually apply the gradient mesh to color this bell pepper. As you can see, I've already created the outlines for our project today, and they're on separate layers over here in our layers panel. We have the shapes for the bell pepper, we have the shapes for the stem, and one thing I need to do real quick is, and you'll also notice that we happen to be in preview mode. We can tell that because the eyeballs are empty. Preview mode, the hotkey for that is Control Y or Command Y. You can see when I switch to our preview mode instead of outline mode that what we have going on here is everything is filled white. So I'm going to go ahead and select my bell pepper layer. And when I built this, I actually built the topmost shape first, so it's on the bottom. So I'm going to drag that to the top, and I'm going to rename this layer and call it front lobe. And then I'm going to rearrange these other ones as well. So the next one down is, we'll call this upper right. The next one down we'll call under stem. Then we'll call this one lower left. And last but not least, we'll call this guy left. So now we have all of our bell peppers lobes labeled and organized in the, and actually I think I'm going to move this one above this one really quick. So I'm going to move him right above the lower left. And I'm going to select all of these and I'm just going to color them red by default. So we see that we have our red bell pepper. Our stem is still white. I'm going to turn the visibility on our stem off for right now. And I'll be toggling back and forth through different preview modes, the preview mode and the outline mode, as I work on this project. So I'm going to start with our front lobe. I'm going to lock all these other pieces so that I can't edit them. And I have a couple of ways to make my gradient mesh. If I already had a gradient applied, I could use the option expand, and because I don't have any features there, it's not going to show us the dialog box, and it would give me the option to choose to expand that gradient to a gradient mesh. My other option is to create a gradient mesh. So if I choose that, it's going to bring up a dialog box. And I'm going to go ahead and click the preview, and we can see that it's going to add rows and columns. And I can choose the number of rows, increase the number of columns, and I can decide that I want this to be highlighted to the center of the shape or to the edge of the shape. I can change the amount of highlighting. And although that might work well in a lot of circumstances, I think for us we're going to actually manually add our mesh points using the third option, which is the gradient mesh tool. The gradient mesh tool, the hotkey for this tool is the letter U, and anytime I click with the gradient mesh tool, if I click on a path, it's going to add a mesh line perpendicular to that path. And if I click on an existing mesh line, it will create a row line. So this will allow me to determine where my gradient mesh paths need to be. I think I want one kind of down here toward in order to make something look three-dimensional, we're going to have more mesh points on the edges than we do at the top or the bottom or in the middle. So I'm going to go ahead now and switch to our outline mode. That is Command Y or Control Y on a PC so that I can see what I have going on underneath here. And I notice that I have some highlights in here. In order to get a highlight, I'm going to need to have a mesh point somewhere near those highlights. I think we'll add another row there, add another column there, do the same here. And now we can start to change the color for our image. I'm going to grab the direct selection tool. That's the A tool. A is the hotkey, or it's the wide arrow tool. And I'm going to go ahead and select these anchor points where we just added the white highlights. And I'm going to hold the Shift key. That will allow me to select multiple. Notice this one's filled in, this one's filled in. We'll come get this one here as well. Just drag a box around it. And I'm going to go ahead and change the color of those highlights to white. And I'm going to go ahead and toggle Command Y. It's not playing nice with me right this second. There we go. Command Y back to CR, and we'll select those anchor points again, or those, holding the Shift key. And in this case, I'm just going to use the eyedropper tool and pick the color from right beneath there. And then if we go back to Command Y, we can see that we've added those highlights. Again, I'm going to toggle back, Command Y, Control Y on a PC, and come in and select, this time I'm going to select these anchor points right at the back here. And I'm going to choose from my color panel hue, saturation, and brightness, and show options. And one of the ways that I can edit these colors is to edit the brightness and the saturation of those anchor points. Again, Command Y. And we can see now that I have this very subtle highlight here. Go back, Command Y again. And I'm going to choose these ones right here. I'm going to Shift drag to select multiple anchor points, and we're going to darken these up just a little bit here. Again, Command Y. And you can see that very quickly we can start to add some three-dimensional volume to our bell pepper. So I'm just going to drag, I'm Shift dragging to add these anchor points. Get that guy there. And again, we'll darken up. Command Y to see how that's looking. Right now it's arguing with me, if you will, so I'm going to turn the visibility of our other lobes off, and I'm going to make sure that I'm very specifically have this front lobe selected. And because Illustrator can't see the other shapes, it'll stop fighting with me. Accidentally invoked check spelling there for a second. Sorry about that. I'm going to darken these up just a bit. There we go. We can start to see that shadow come in. Right there. When I'm happy with a segment of my pepper, I'm going to darken those up just a little bit. I can lock that one and move on to the next one. Make sure you unlock those shapes when you're ready to work on them. And I'm going to get the gradient mesh tool again and create some mesh lines there. Now, let's say that I'm not real happy with where this line has decided to go. I have the ability to move that line. Each of these mesh points has curve control handles. So I can change the angle of the line. I also can click inside a square and move the entire quadrant, or I can get my mesh tool and by shift clicking move that point along either the row or the column. So in this case, I think I'm pretty happy with how that's looking. And so again, I'm going to come in with my direct selection tool. I'm going to choose these end anchor points. And darken them up. Again, I'm having a situation where Illustrator thinks that I'm trying to work with this locked front lobe portion. All I have to do to fix that situation is turn off the visibility. So I'm going to go ahead and select those anchor points again, right down here. And we'll darken them up. Keep the saturation there. Do the same with these down here. And I seem to have one right there that doesn't want to play along. So we're starting to get a three-dimensional curve there. And I think I want to come right here and give this particular one a nice highlight. If I turn on my front lobe, I can see that those overlap. And I want to add some shadow. Well, in this case, I think it will be easier to add the shadow by selecting the front lobe. So I've unlocked the front lobe, turned the visibility on. And I'm just going to come grab these anchor points right here. See if Illustrator will play nice with me. And we'll add this one, and this one, and this one. And again, we'll choose hue, saturation, and brightness. Move our brightness up, our saturation up. And create some differentiation by darkening that edge. So now we're starting to have this full volumetric bell pepper shape. We'll continue that same process all the way around the bell pepper, and then in the next video we'll add the stem.